I would now like to hand the conference over to Mr. Manish Mahawar from Antique Stock Broking. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thanks, Janice. On behalf of Antique Stock Broking, I would like to welcome all the participants on the call. From the management, we have Mr. N.K. Dhanuka, Managing Director, Mr. Rahul Dhanuka, Director Marketing, and Mr. V.K. Bansal, CFO on the call. Without further ado, I would like to hand over the call to Mr. Dhanuka for opening remarks. Over to you, Mr. Dhanuka.
Thank you, Mr. Manish. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you all are doing well and keeping safe. Thank you for joining us for the Q1 FY21 results conference call. I have with me Mr. Rahul Dhanuka, Director Marketing, and Mr. V.K. Bansal, CFO of the company. Dhanuka Agritech Limited is a leading agrochemical company in India. We specialize in formulated products and have a solution for almost every crop. We have a strong diversified product portfolio which is well distributed across insecticides, herbicides and fungicide segments. We have a pan-India presence with over 7,000 distributors and dealers and approximately 80,000 retailers. We have 3 state-of-the-art manufacturing facilities in Rajasthan, Gujarat, J&K. Coming to the quarterly operating performance, despite the challenges faced during the nationwide lockdown and reverse migration of labor from big cities to rural areas, I am pleased to inform you that we have witnessed record sales on the backdrop of good monsoon, recharged groundwater tables, and better sowing in Kharif season during the month of June. Some of the ambitious steps taken by the Government of India to revive the role of agriculture in the growth of Indian economy, such as increasing minimum support prices, e-NAM portal, distribution of soil health cards, and direct benefit transfer via PM Kisan Samman Nidhi have helped to create a robust foundation to enhance farmers' income and encourage wider adoption of high-quality seeds and judicious use of fertilizers. These initiatives would transform Indian agriculture and make it competitive globally. Coming to the financial performance for the quarter, revenues from operations stood at rupees 373.84 crores in Q1 of FY21 versus rupees 219 crores in Q1 of FY20, representing an increase of 70.70% growth. EBITDA stood at 65.28 crores in Q1 of FY21 versus 19.97 crores in Q1 of FY20, up to 26.94%. EBITDA margins improved from 9.1% in Q1 of 20 to 17.5% in Q1 of FY21, led by strong operating leverage. Profit after tax was at rupees 51.79 crores in Q1 21 versus rupees 14.79 crores in Q1 FY20, up to 50.12%. PAT margins improved from 6.76% in Q1 of FY20 to 13.85% in Q1 FY20. Such tremendous performance is possible because of the teamwork from factories, from the marketing team, from finance team, from logistics team, and all deserves appreciation from management. Coming to the zone-wise share of turnover for Q1 FY21, North Zone contributed 31%, East Zone contributed 10%, West Zone contributed 42%, and South Zone contributed 17%. Product-wise category product category-wise share of turnover for Q1 FY21. Insecticides contributed 31%, fungicides contributed 11%, herbicides contributed 46%, and others 12%. You are well aware that at initial stage, consumption starts with herbicides, followed by insecticides, and then fungicides. I am happy to inform that the board has approved buyback of equity shares of the company using funds of rupees 100 crores at a maximum price of rupees 1,000 per share. These equity shares will subsequently be extinguished, resulting in reduction of paid-up share capital of the company. We would like to highlight that we have received approval for one molecule in this quarter under Section 9(3) category, which will be used for grapes and potatoes. Also, during the last quarter, we have launched 2 new products by the name of Dabuj and Dojomax, which are both herbicides. Both the products are in-licensed products. Friends, Dhanuka regularly organizes various seminars, Krishak Gostis and Sammelans to educate our farmers about new innovative techniques of farming. Being India's leading agrochemical company, we are at the forefront of introducing digital solutions and innovation, streamlining policies and collaborating with ingenious entities to boost integration of technology across business segments. In the same endeavor, we have tried to boost our reach through online farmer interactions and aggressive use of TV advertisements for our key products such as Tempra and Targa Super. We are focused on expanding our market coverage through our network of distributors and our digital platforms where we engage with the end consumer. We consider ourselves responsible towards securing the farmers' welfare and preserving food security of the nation. We continue to strengthen our association with the farmer producer organizations, Krishi Vigyan Kendras, and other critical institutions to increase our business expertise and boost our market presence. To summarize at last, Dhanuka continues to demonstrate our ability to overcome challenges and emerge stronger despite uncertain business environment. We will aggressively roll out new formulations in the upcoming quarters and would ensure that it reaches to the consumers. I reassure our shareholders that we are committed to the task of transforming the landscape of agriculture in India and will play an integral role in rewriting the future of a better and new India. And now on this note, I would like to hand over the mic to Mr. Manish to enable us to take question answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the question answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handset while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. We take the first question from the line of Rohit Nagraj from Sunidhi Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for taking my question. So our sales have been very robust, and congratulations on the same. Is there any preponement of sales for Q1 due to the lockdown issue, and probably maybe the lockdown will be extended if second wave comes in? So from that perspective, has there been, we are seeing that some of the sales which were supposed to be in Q2 have come online in Q1?
Yeah, definitely, there is a preponement as well as postponement of the sales in the quarter one because of the lockdown in Q4. We could not make the billing of at least 8 days. So approximately 10% of the sales of Q4 was postponed to in Q1. And at the same time, because of onset monsoon, drought time, so there was a preponement of sale as well of July to some extent. That's right.
Okay. And currently, how is the situation for the month of July? I mean, everything has come to normal in terms of our plant operation, logistics, and supply chain, both from product placement perspective and from raw material procurement perspective.
Could you please repeat that question?
Yeah. So now the first quarter is over and we are in the month of July. So how has been the position in terms of our plant operations? Have they normalized? And on the supply chain front, both from our product placement in the market and raw material procurement.
Right. So our plant operations stabilized much earlier. I think so somewhere around April end, they were significantly up and running, and I think so by mid-May we were running full capacity. We received a lot of support in this from the local governments, from at the district and the state level also. Agriculture and agri inputs being essential commodity, we received a very good support. At one of our plants, we faced the issue of the labor going back to their native district. But they, by the month of June end, they were really back and into operations and up and active again. So plant operations are absolutely really good, and that's why we could service our channel and customers in the last quarter. In terms of the supply chain, I believe except for the sporadic impact of the local district level lockdowns, the supply chain is significantly smooth and things are moving positively. And also, the procurement pipeline faced some hiccups in May and June for various reasons, which also has significantly stabilized, and the procurement pipeline is also running largely unhindered, undisturbed.
Yeah, and sir, one last question. In our presentation, we have said that we target to launch 10 new products across the segments over the next 2 years. So what are the categories and what are the crops we are targeting for? And what is the potential revenue or potential of these 10 products? That's it. Thank you.
Right. So in the call, I'll not be specifying the products which we are going to launch. However, we have maintained largely an effort to introduce about 4 to 5 products every year. We have already introduced 2 products in the previous quarter, which is Dabuch and Dozo Max. And we are planning to launch about 3 to 4 more products within this year, out of which 2 will be 9(3) introductions.
Okay.
Our effort will be to cover all the segments of herbicides, fungicides, and insecticides. We'll be introducing across this span.
Yeah. Any market size for these 10 products? Any idea and broader understanding?
No, we are not specifying that.
Okay. Thank you very much and best of luck, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before we take the next question, a reminder to the participants, please limit your question to 2 per participant. You may come back in the question queue if you have a follow-up. We take the next question from the line of Varshish Shah from Emkay Global. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Thanks for the opportunity, and first of all, heartiest congratulations to the management team for this splendid performance. My question is on the margins. So we are seeing gross margin improvement, YOY basis, but my sense is that probably gross margins could have improved even better. I think one of the reasons I could think of is because we were ahead of the competition in terms of securing our supply chain, especially from the imports. And hence we were able to place the products probably ahead of competition, which led to this robust performance. But then probably we had to compromise a bit on margin in the form of higher cost of goods because we were ahead in the game and then prices came down subsequently. Is my assessment correct? That's part one. And if that is yes, then will we see even further improvement in gross margins in Q2? That's my question.
Concerned, so definitely we can expect improvement in gross margin in Q2. That's right. And with regard to your first part of the question, I have understood you are saying that there is an improvement in the gross margin by 19 bps, but it could be much better than this, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So yes, you are right. It could be. I cannot deny that. But you see, in the quarter one, the portion of the some B2B sale and generic is exponentially increased disproportionately. Therefore, increases like this. It could have been better if the proportion which we have normally 2/3 of 1/3, it remains like this. It could have been much better.
Understood. So I think going forward it would normalize. That's what I can assume.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. That's it from my side. And again, congratulations. Best of luck for the rest of the quarter.
Thank you.
Thank you. We take the next question from the line of Madhav Mehta from Fidelity Investment. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir. Good evening. Thank you so much for your time. I just want to understand that given that there's been some preponement of sales from Q2 and some postponement from Q4, what should we look at in terms of annual sales growth for FY21? Given that the season looks very, very good right now. Any like thoughts from your side on it?
We have already given guidance of 20% plus growth for the whole year. So we maintain that guidance of 20% plus growth.
Okay. And in terms of the EBITDA margin side, any outlook on that as well?
Yeah, EBITDA margin also the guidance was 100 bips improvement over last year. So that also we maintain that minimum 100 bips improvement over last year.
Okay, got it. All right, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We take the next question from the line of Probal Sen from Centrum Broking. Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity, sir. Congratulations on the good set of numbers. So 2 questions. One was you just mentioned about the category-wise breakup, where herbicides has obviously, stood out. Is it a function of the fact that this, because of the shortage of labor, there has been more transplantation and weed removal investment by the farmers? And if so, for the rest of the year, can we expect this proportion to once again, revert back to the sort of 40% insecticide and 35-33% herbicide for the full year? That was the first question, sir.
Yeah, you are right, Mr. Probal. This quarter, because of the migration of the labor, especially from Punjab, Haryana, etc., the manual weeding was not possible, and that's why chemical weeding is the only option for the farmers. So consumption of herbicides, even otherwise in first quarter, is always higher. So we hope that at the year end, the similar percentage will be there. That means insecticide consumption in the bracket of around 43% and herbicide consumption around 31%.
Okay. And sir, the other question was more near term. I think you mentioned earlier also, as well as on TV, that Q2 historically tends to be the strongest quarter for you in a year. Now, obviously, this year we are going off a larger base because 1Q itself is so strong. But still, on a QOQ basis, is it fair to assume that 2Q would be stronger than even this quarter if things stay as favorable as they are now?
So that much growth was possible in Q1 because of the postponement of the March sales to first quarter and preponement of July sales in first quarter. So that much growth is not possible in the second quarter. However, over last year, there will be definitely growth we are expecting in the second quarter also. Being monsoon good and showing all-time high. So that's why growth is 100% going to be there.
Right. And sorry if I missed this, sir. If I may ask one last question, what is the share of sort of the newer molecules? What do you call, in our overall sales as of now? Just a rough percentage.
Idea Index?
Yeah.
Yeah, in quarter one it is coming 7.4%.
Okay. 7.4%, sir.
Yeah, current year plus 3 years.
Okay.
As against last year in quarter one it was 7.34%. It's almost similar to last year. There is an improvement only 6 weeks. But by the year end we are expecting a significant improvement over last year, say more than 200 basis points.
Okay. So for the full year, a 200 bits improvement in this index.
Absolutely. We are expecting at least minimum.
Thank you so much, sir. Congratulations again and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. We take the next question from the line of Virat Kacharia from Securities Investment Management. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Just two questions, sir. First of all, congratulations for good set of numbers. So first question is, so as of end of March, the inventory in the channel for us and the industry also was quite thin. And, the initial part of the Q1, you had issues in production and placement. So currently, how would the inventory in the channel be for us and the inventory now, as of June end or in July so far? How is the inventory position in the channel been now? So that is one. Second, you talked about the gross margin expansion starting to play out in Q2. So is it purely a function of product mix, which we expect to correct, or is it also the fact that you expect, either the RM and price environment being more favorable, or you as your products have taken a price increase? So, which of those factors is actually going to drive the margin expansion? And third is, if you can provide any update on those ban of 27 molecules which the government had come up with the order. So has there been any further, update on that, and also on the glyphosate related molecules? So, yeah.
Dr. Thomas. So, first of all, I'll be talking about the channel inventory. Of course, March end, the channel inventory was not very high. And subsequently, due to aggressive sowing, availability of irrigation water, availability of groundwater has led to actual consumption of agrochemicals. So April, May, June has seen significant consumption of agrochemicals, and almost 60 to 70% of the stocks build have been consumed. So there is pretty less inventory in the pipeline. What I'm talking to you about is the 30th June situation, and then the consumption has continued. So that is, the pipeline stocks are not expected to be very high. That is one thing. Of course, the second point was about the margin expansion. So in Q2, the largely impact will be of product mix.
Yeah, you see, last year there was a significant decline in the gross margin in Q2. So one, the base is low. Secondly, last year there was a declining trade was started in the month of August. This year we are not expecting such a trade. So therefore, it is a combination of all. One is the base, one is the declining trade, and third is the product mix. Therefore, we are expecting improvement in the Q2 GP.
And then talking about 27 products ban, the industry took up very strongly this issue. Farmer associations and the channel also took up the issue very strongly because this did not have scientific base. And as of now, the subject has not moved forward. We are not looking at any of these bans coming into action in near future. The entire list contains about 3 red triangle products. So at worst, what can happen is that those red triangle products might come in the government's ambit in the short term. But in long term, the government would probably be seeking more data, and being satisfied with the data would allow the products to be continued, because these are the optimum low-cost choices and options available with the farmer, which is not, as of now, prudent to withdraw.
Okay, if I can squeeze in one question. So you said that, apart from the mix and the base, also the trade terms you have tightened. So for us in the industry, is that by and large the approach that, given the kind of demand and consumption we are seeing right now, the approach is more of tightening terms of trade, either in terms of more stricter credit terms or increase in product prices. Any of those things we have seen in the marketplace?
Right. So as such, I would, that Dhanuka is a asset-light model and a debt-free balance sheet. So we have that leverage available from our vendors. When we go out to reach out to our customers, I think so this is natural what is happening in the ecosystem. But we have improved our trade receivables significantly. So we have gone really aggressive on that front. And that was largely part of the plan as we were shaping up the Q4. We have gone aggressive on our collections and trade receivables.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Before we take the next question, a reminder to the participants again, please limit your question to 2 per participant. You may rejoin the question queue if you have a follow-up. We take the next question from the line of Riken Shah from Phoenix Capital. Please go ahead.
Hello, congratulations on a fantastic set of numbers. Firstly, I'd just like to ask, on the global scenario, we are seeing disruptions and companies like Liane Tech and Adama are saying that India has a very good opportunity for contract manufacturing. So are we going to be looking at that side? And secondly, I would like to ask, are we going to see a better trend of 9.3 and 9.4 in licensing?
In licensing is a continuous effort that we do because India does not have basic R&D, basic research available. We have 2 9.3 products coming in this year. Both are grapes fungicide, and we have some very powerful products in pipeline to be introduced in coming years. And this year we have already introduced 2 in-licensed products, Dabuch and Dozomax. And also going forward, we'll be continuing to do these in-licensing 9.4 products as well. So we are going to stay aggressive on both these fronts. Talking about the supply disruptions globally and the opportunity therein, yes, that opportunity is absolutely there, and it is an open opportunity for Dhanuka also. As and when we have something powerful to share in this group, we'll certainly like to come back and do that.
All right, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next question is from the line of Krish Kothari from Sinobi Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi. I was wondering, could you tell me if you, in your assessment, you've managed to gain some market share predominantly from smaller companies, that especially private companies, that may not have been able to sort of have necessary production going on in the factory in the quarter, or had problems with their distribution network?
Right. It is relatively difficult to assess because even our team does not have very clear access to the markets right now due to corona-related restrictions imposed by the district administrations or sometimes the market associations themselves. So what I am talking is relatively more second-hand. So this is true that the unorganized sector probably could not service the market with as much agility, and that is why the market would have shifted towards the organized sector more. That is one thing. Secondly, I also have a sense that because of our very agile supply chain at Dhanuka, our 3 formulation units being up and running relatively much earlier, our very sincere efforts to have all our depots spread across the country to become active in spite of the local curfews was very helpful in servicing our farmers. This is what happened in the industry. So it was a very agile supply chain for which we were able to take this advantage. And all the credit goes to our supply chain team and the 3 factories team which did this great job. So as an outcome, the market share would have certainly increased.
Okay, thanks. And just one question on the employee costs for the quarter. I was wondering, have there been any salary cuts, and assuming there have been, will they simply be made up in subsequent quarters, or have you paid pretty much 100%?
We have paid 100%.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next question is from the line of Nitin Agarwal from IDFC Securities. Please go ahead.
Hi, thanks for taking my questions. I have two questions. One is with all this talk about potential banning of certain goods from China. How do you see that impacting the industry landscape in general? And two, from a Dhanuka perspective, sir, how much of a business impact does it have for us from a strategy perspective?
Right. So I don't think so. I heard any specific message around banning of agrochemicals import from China. How I look at it is that agriculture is the cornerstone of Indian economy, GDP, both economically as well as politically. What we should worry about as a country and as a government is about food imports. So still we have to indulge in a lot of pulses imports, a lot of oilseed imports. And we need to really take care of that by increasing the productivity in our country. So, should we become food dependent or should we become chemical dependent for a while? While the government takes initiatives to increase the Make in India and increase the chemical production in the country, which is certainly laudable and appreciable effort, I think so we will not be, as a country, we will not be compromising with our food security. And we would probably be trying and making the efforts to check our food import bill. So that's not happening in short term is my feel. But if there is any dumping happening of agrochemicals from China or something like that, then I think so government should take a serious view of that and take corrective actions as well. Talking about the strategic perspective of China sourcing, for Dhanuka, our strategic sourcing is largely from our Japanese principles. Our 9-3 pipeline largely constitutes of Japanese partnerships and products, and also our relationship with American and European companies, which are our major source of in-licensing products. So the strategic base remains clear.
Thanks. And so secondly, one sort of broader question. So we've had, this is pretty much our best year after a gap of almost 3 years, right? When we've had very uneven monsoons since probably after FY17 onwards. So when we start to look like a 3-year view of this business going forward, in the context of how uneven growth has been for us over the last 3 to 4 years, so how should we look at the business on a 3-year view? Does it continue to remain hostage to these monsoons on an annual basis, as it's been in the recent past, or we see a more structural sort of steady improvement in growth as we go forward?
Right. So I cannot discount the impact of monsoon when we talk of 3 years perspective. Yet at Dhanuka, we are making efforts to streamline this more in terms of structural changes, how we can make it more and more agnostic to the monsoon impact. Now, this initiative, while we are taking at our end, is also very visible in the environment, because more irrigation channels are being established, more water accessibility for the farmer is happening, and the technology is moving towards drought-resistant crops and agriculture. So that is going to help the Indian agriculture grow and stabilize in perspective. From our side, we are introducing more products which are suitable for the farmer even in case of less water. So, for example, last year itself we have introduced a product Campa, which is a rice herbicide, and it is meant for direct seeded rice or water stressed rice. And this year it was because of labor stress that the Punjab and Haryana Kisan and in various other markets the farmers shifted to labor free direct seeded rice, and Campa has exhibited a major boost. So what I'm sharing is we are trying to make our portfolio also monsoon agnostic.
Right. And if I can squeeze in a last one, so for the Rabi season, are there any indications or by when will we start getting a sense of how Rabi will really play out this year for us, for the industry?
So far, the monsoon forecast is very good for the Rabi also. La Nina is largely predicted and has set in. La Nina is a monsoon favorable situation of the Pacific and Atlantic. So I think so we are well placed when it comes to good Rabi rainfall, and we are also well placed in terms of the self-sufficiency call of the government of oil seeds, pulses, and other crops. So I think so Rabi is expected to be really good.
Okay. Thank you, and best luck.
Thank you. We take the next question from the line of Rohan Gupta from Edelweiss. Please go ahead.
Hi, Dhanuka ji. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, first question is on our current year, I mean FY21, the growth prospects which we are seeing for our company. So no doubt Q1 we have seen a very solid growth, and you are still talking about that in Q2. You remain confident about further growth in Q2 as well, right? Despite this some preponement of sales happening in a current quarter, but you still remain confident that Q2 we may see growth over last year?
Yeah, definitely. We hope that we will definitely have growth over last year, which is evident from the last 20 days sales also.
Okay, and if I just look at the slightly more closely, then what kind of growth number we can expect? Though you mentioned, sir, for full year you are expecting 20% plus revenue growth. My whole point was that given the robust Q1, and even if we are expecting a Q2 growth, then it means that for full year, we are going to see a revenue growth number maybe beyond 25 or even 30% also. So I'm just looking at are we being conservative in terms of how we are seeing this year? Also, the same thing is reflected in bottom line like EBITDA margin expansion, though you initially guided for 100 basis points. But sir, if I keep your last year 9-month number same and Q1 number if I factor in for the current year, then itself you have achieved 150 basis point EBITDA margin expansion already. So I just wanted to get a fair sense that how FY21 could pan out for us given that in a current scenario and how the agri is doing. So if you can just can share some more light on that.
I will request Mr. B.K. Bansal to answer this question.
Yeah, thank you. You see, you are absolutely right. So we have committed around 20% growth in the beginning of the year. Now looking for the quarter one numbers, definitely we are hopeful that our overall growth should be more than 20%. In quarter two, definitely growth will come and it should come in double digits. But you will see in the last year, Rabi was very, very good, exceptionally well. So in the last year, Rabi growth appears to be little dull. I'm hoping so. It would not be very great in growth in the Rabi. As far as EBITDA margin is concerned, you are absolutely right. We have committed 100 basis points, and I'm sure that our EBITDA margin improvement significantly more than what we committed.
Okay. Okay. Sir, second question is related to buyback. So how should we read it? Is it in lieu of the dividend which generally we give, or you thought that it's a better time to distribute the cash because we are doing this buyback when stock has seen a huge appreciation in last 3 months, and even the buyback price is also pretty aggressive at 1,000 rupees. So is it in lieu of dividend you are doing this buyback because there is no tax related benefit now, or it is another smart way of paying the money to the promoters because 75% we have, and are we also going to participate in a buyback, and so that is it a smart way of paying money to the promoters? So that's one thought on that, sir.
Yeah, you see. Yes, Dhanuka, please continue.
You see, it's definitely one way of rewarding the shareholders. Instead of paying dividend, you are doing the buyback. In paying the dividend, the tax liability remains with the shareholder, while in the buyback, the tax liability will be borne by the company. So ultimately, shareholders are going to get the advantage in this buyback. Since promoters are holding 75%, so always that benefit will be passed on to the promoters also because they will be participating. It's a tender way, so promoters will be also participating in the buyback process.
And you see, we are not saying he will not pay any dividend, but yes, in the year of buyback, dividend is significantly lower as compared to the previous year. But dividend will definitely be there this year as well.
Thank you. We take the next question from the line of Archit Joshi from Dolat Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Thanks a lot for the opportunity and congrats for a great set of numbers. Sir, we have had around 70% of volume growth for this quarter. I just wanted to ask if we have been benefited by the recent locust attacks that had happened in the quarter. So if I were to look at a like-to-like basis, and if you can share the quantum of the volumes that we have had from the locust attack itself, because I think we had about 7 to 8 products from our insecticides portfolio that could have been used for this particular phenomena. So if you can help us out with that.
Right. So locust attack is relatively spread out in terms of the north and northwest of the country. However, its intensity keeps on varying depending upon the microclimate of the area. So right now the locust is active in some parts of Haryana and Uttar Pradesh. And the agrochemical consumption is largely tender-based, where Dhanuka is not aggressively participating. Whatever is the consumption in the private hands of the farmer, our options are available to the farmer much aggressively and much better way for him to make his choice.
Right, sir. Got it. Sir, another question on the participant who had asked about the gross margin expansion. If you can just repeat as to what has happened in the first quarter and what we are expecting in the second quarter. I think I missed that point.
You see, in the first quarter, there is an improvement of 90 basis in gross margin. And in quarter 2, we are expecting an improvement in the gross margin because last year there was a significant decline in the gross margin in quarter 2. And because the price declining trend was there in the month of August and September. This year we are not expecting such a trend. So therefore we are expecting a improvement in the gross margin as well as some improvement in the product mix as well.
Right, sir. Sir, on the same point, I think we have already taken a price hike in the previous quarter. And will that also sort of come into play if we consider the base, and if you can also comment on how is the underlying pricing of the things that we are importing from our licensing partners?
In case of imports, normally prices are stable throughout the year. The price change was significant in the month of April, May in case of generic, and now largely settled. In the few molecules there is a little softness, in few molecules there is an increase in the price.
Right, sir. So largely it's stable.
Yeah.
Sure, sir. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. We take the next question from the line of Levin Shah from ValueQuest. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, sir. Firstly, congratulations on very good set of numbers. Now, if you look at the growth that we have seen this year, so majorly the growth has been led by volume growth. And there has been hardly any price increase that we have seen. So do we see this phenomena continue throughout the year, or like you said that this was this because in this quarter we saw that the product mix has changed. So that was the reason that we have seen no value growth as such.
You see, in this quarter, actually the volume growth was more. It was 72.52% approx, and whereas the value growth is 172%, which means there is a decline of around 180 bps in the value. Because of many molecules, price were lower in the quarter 1 as compared to the price of quarter 1 the last year. So I am expecting this gap will be fulfilled by the year end. It should be almost similar volume and value by the year end.
Okay, so we are not expecting any major growth in the value. All the growth would be major growth would be driven by the volume.
Absolutely right. That's correct.
Right. Sir, and my last question again is on this gross margin. So like what we have seen last year, there was a big compression in the gross margins in FY20 numbers if you see. And now with growth coming back and also like new products that we have launched, do we see our gross margin going back to like FY19, FY18, FY19 levels in this current year?
It is little difficult to comment, but definitely I can say one thing. This year there should be improvement quarter on quarter in the gross margin, definitely. Because last year there was a very bad situation.
Okay. No, sir, I am talking about year as a whole. So if we compare FY20 gross margins, they were like compressed as compared to FY19, and there was like a major compression. And last year's gross margins are one of the lowest in like 6-7 years history.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm not sure whether they will be equivalent to the FY19 level, but that is sure that will be better than the FY20 level.
Okay, sir. Thank you and all the best.
Thank you. We take the next question from the line of Deepak Olhe from B&K Securities. Please go ahead.
Good evening, sir, and thanks for this opportunity. And congratulations, sir, for good set of number. So can you please provide the generic and the specialty revenue mix for the first Q as well as for the last year?
You see, for the quarter one, it is almost 50%. And in the last year, it was approximately 60-40.
Okay. And sir, how do you see this raw material supply situation currently? If you can give some color on that, it would be great, sir.
Raw material supply largely is reasonably good.
In terms of pricing, sir?
In terms of pricing, largely settled. In few molecules, the price are a little on the higher side. In few molecules, little softness is there.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. That is from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We take the next question from the line of Soumya V from Spark Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Thanks for taking my question, sir. Congratulations on a great set of numbers. So firstly, if I heard it right, the impact of Q4 sales getting moved into Q1, you mentioned it 10%. Is that right, sir?
Could you repeat your question, please?
Around 10% of Q4 sales got pushed into Q1 21. Is
That's
that
right.
Understand?
That's right.
In terms of the preponement that you mentioned, so I mean, I know it's very difficult to kind of have a number to this, but any ballpark number in terms of how you think the revenues from Q2 have moved into Q1, a rough ballpark number?
Could be in the same range, around 10%, but it's very difficult to estimate. But it could be around 8 to 10% time.
Great. Helpful. Sir, second, I think one of the previous participants mentioned about this locus impact and corresponding sales for us. So was there any kind of, numbers that we could attach to this, which kind of aided in Q1 and numbers, this locus impact and corresponding sales?
I don't think so. The locus impact would have impacted our numbers directly. But overall, there is a aggressive agrochemical consumption in the market, in the fields, by the government, by the farmer, to deal with the locust attack. So that vacuum in the market would have certainly impacted our portfolio, our revenues also, indirectly.
And also the region mix, across regions we have done well, but specifically South, though relatively a smaller base, but there has been quite a sizable jump. So any color on that front in terms of southern markets, anything that you're seeing different this time?
So southern markets were carry forward impact of good rainfalls in the previous Rabi. So previous Rabi resulted in good waters in the dams, good groundwater, good sowing in December, January, and which was the carry forward impact of the consumption going into April and May.
Okay, got it. And also, is there any element of pre-buying because of this COVID impact that you are able to see from the market? I mean, a sense of urgency on products not being available. That is probably pulling forward some of the sales. Is that something that you could see from the ground?
I think so. In April and May, I would say that there was a color of that too, apart from increased sowing, because increased sowing itself consumed the products. Absence of labor consumed the products. But also there must have been some impact of the feeling of shortage or unavailability, resulting in preponement or aggressive lifting of material by the channel as well as by the farmer.
Got it, sir. Thank you, sir. Thanks for taking the question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Next question is from the line of Vishnu Kumar from Spark Capital. Please go ahead.
Thanks for the follow-up. You mentioned about direct seeded rice. Could you just explain, like, conventional method is to a direct seeded rice? How much would probably a farmer incrementally have to buy an agro system? Or per acre, if let's say you're spending 200 now, how much would it be spending?
Wow, no, that's a difficult one. If per acre farmer is spending 200 rupees in one type, then what's the differential delta in the other one? I'll not be able to address that right away, Vishnu. I'll have to come back on that one. Theoretically speaking, in past, direct seeded rice has been a preferred choice in water-stressed pockets, and this is also called as upland agriculture. However, as the water tables depleted in Godavari and even in Punjab, Haryana, then the government started promoting direct seeded rice varieties, and farmers also lapped it up. So the major challenge in direct seeded rice is weeds. So farmer certainly needs to go for a weedicide application, extra weedicide round in direct seeded rice. That is for sure. But what is the overall economics? I'll have to check that.
Because of labor shortage, do you think the direct seeded rice acreage is materially short of this time around?
You'll have to repeat that. You're not audible.
I'm sorry, sir. Because of the labor shortage, we understand that the direct seeded rice acreage is materially gone up compared to the conventional because of lack of labor. Is that a right understanding?
Yeah, that's a right understanding that the direct seeded rice went up substantially due to shortage of labor. But in many pockets, the farmer was not trained or not capable to deal with that shift. So in many areas, as the labor inflow started, as the labor restored, or by mechanical tools, farmer removed the direct seeded rice and went back to conventional paddy or shifted to another crop. That also happened in the month of June. However, in April, May, the shift was significant. It was really very high.
Okay, got it, sir. So my second question would be that...
Mr. Kumar, I'm so sorry to interrupt. Requesting you to please speak a bit louder so your audio is not audible.
Okay. My next question is just on the diversification plans. Is there any plan to invest in any technical plants? I mean, you've spoken about in the past that we'll come back to you at a certain time. But are there any serious plans to get into? Because at the end of the day, then again, we are rainfall dependent, and as you did mention that there is a little bit of cyclicality. Anything that we would do to reduce this cyclicality?
See, a technical plant doesn't change much unless it is an export-oriented technical plant. Then it is just de-risking it from the Indian monsoons and betting on the rainfall or the agriculture of the international markets. So to that extent, it does not. The technical plants do not defy the monsoon trends. But coming back to the diversification plans, as of now, I have nothing to add there.
Okay, thanks a lot. All the best.
You're welcome.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes. Can we proceed to the next question?
Yes, please.
From the line of Rikin Shah from Phoenix Capital. Please go ahead.
Hello, sir. I would just like to ask you about your interpretation on the pesticide management bill, more specifically how unorganized would go to organized, and the chemical industry plan by the government of India?
Organized versus unorganized, and the second one was?
The new chemical industry plan of India, the government of India.
No, you're not audible. I'm not getting you.
So basically, I'm asking, sir, how do you see the unorganized shifting to organized after the pesticide management bill, sir?
Right. So, pesticide management bill is certainly going to make it stiffer and stringent when it comes to the unorganized sector, but largely for the fly-by-night operators or spurious product manufacturers. And that was kind of a really long-awaited stringent action required against these spurious product manufacturers. Regulations to be put in place in the type of quality laboratories they should have. For example, for Dhanuka, all our laboratories, testing laboratories are NABL accredited. And whereas the licenses go out, agrochemical licenses go out to non-existing labs also. So PMB will certainly be impacting that favorably in favor of the organized sector. And I think so because of this, there will be a shift towards branded products and towards the branded organizations, brand-driven organizations. So farmer will go for a brand recall and pick up the product accordingly. And in that, the regulation, the local authority, the government would be backing us up with the PMB.
All right, sir. And second question would be, sir, how would your distribution be different from PI Industries and insecticides? Like those companies also have heavy distribution in India, like yours.
Right. So in fact, I won't be able to comment on what kind of a distribution they have and planned. But in recent past, what we have done is we have kind of consolidated the distribution and trying to service the second layer. So from 8,500 channel partners, we have reduced to 6,500, cutting down the tail significantly over last 3 years. And we are trying to promote the next level of interior retailers through our selected distributors. So the idea is to catch the secondary sales. The idea is to influence the deeper hinterlands, the deeper rural belt. We claim ourselves to be rural FMCG. We would really want Dhanuka to be available on every access point of the farmer.
All right, sir. So basically, the way forward, would it be getting more from the current distribution or expanding because we have consolidated?
So it will go both ways. We'll be expanding in the right markets wherever we find we are relatively less represented or our market share needs a push. And we will be pushing aggressively for the secondary sale reach out wherever we find ourselves on the strong footing on the primary front.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you. We take the next question from the line of Rohit Nagarajan from Sunidhi Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the follow-up. So just one question in terms of strategy. So whenever we are introducing any new products, so what is our strategy? Because there may be some incumbents in similar category. So are we targeting maybe in the initial phase some kind of pricing power over the competitors, or we are primarily making use of our expanded distribution reach through the farmer doctors, etc.?
Okay, so there are three things which we largely try to leverage. One is our understanding of the emerging opportunity. Second is accessibility of the new technology. And third is leveraging our distribution channel.
Yes.
So, while trying to leverage first of all, I'll talk about the emerging opportunity. So, for example, in Madhya Pradesh, in soybean markets, there was a trend that the farmer in Malwa belt, in Ujjain, Indore area, they started shifting towards pre-emergent herbicide. So, we really tried and sourced Dabuch is an access point as a pre-emergent herbicide in soybean. In terms of accessing new technology, so Largo, which is a product from Corteva, is a very, very powerful and eco-friendly and almost bio product to control lepidopteran pest. It's a very, very powerful technology which we source from Corteva. And third is, of course, introducing a product to leverage our channel and make that product reach into wider corners of the country, which we find we can do exceedingly well because of our channel network. So we leverage these three things and we weigh the options across these three while we introduce a new product.
So normally, how is the competition across these products? I mean, there are very few players in the category, or there are many players, but these are regional specific players, or probably don't have the kind of wide distribution reach as we have.
Normally, we try to introduce products where many players are not present.
Okay. Thank you. And last clarification, do we have any biologicals as of now in our portfolio, and are there any plans to introduce them in coming future?
There are a couple of biologicals in our portfolio, yes. We introduced a product last year itself, Myco, and Largo from Corteva is also biological. And we are aggressively looking at offering these options also to our consumer aggressively.
Thanks for the follow-up, sir. And that's it.
Thank you. We take the next question from the line of Viraj Kacharia from Securities Investment Management. Please go ahead. Mr. Viraj Kacharia, you may please go ahead with your question, sir. Looks like no response from the current.
Hello.
Yes,
Hello.
please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I just had one follow-up question. You talked about two new innovative products which we launched under 9(3). So who are the innovators to, in these few products?
Right. So Nisodium, which is a grapes powdery mildew fungicide, comes from Nippon Soda, Japan. And Kirari, which is a downy mildew product again for grapes and potato, comes from Nissan Chemicals, Japan.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. We take the next question from the line of Rohan Gupta from Edelweiss. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, sir. Thanks for follow-up opportunity. Sir, my first question is on this China, and we have seen that recently that because of the increasing tension at border, that raw material availability from China, and I think that custom clearing and port clearing was getting continuously delayed. How is the scenario now, and do you see that in a current scenario of Kharif crop, there is going to be some shortage of the raw material coming from China which can have impact on our business?
As such, our business is not that dependent on Chinese import significantly. Our strategic products and initiatives come largely from our Japanese principals. Yes, the impact for overall Chinese imports was there, and that has sorted out significantly faster due to intervention on both these sides. And I think so in last 20 days, nothing has actually even delayed. Not stopped, not even delayed. So things are moving really fast now at the port end also. The congestion at Indian ports is certainly a cause of concern, and the custom clearance is slow. Overall, the custom clearance is slow.
Okay, so materials at least at the port end and supply from China has resumed. I mean that there is nothing further.
That's right.
Okay. Sir, second question is that we have definitely on a name of biopesticides and all and a serious product, a big close to 4,000 crore plus sort of market has been developed in India, which primarily was using materials or ingredients coming from China only and was using some serious chemicals only on the name of biopesticide. Everybody knows about it. Do you see that the current year that market has been significantly impacted and also the pesticide bill and along with the raw material availability from China and also that credit condition which has been poor in the market, because of all these reasons that biopesticide market, which was a fairly large market, has been impacted in the current year and beneficiary will be companies like us in the current scenario?
I think so, yes. This spurious market has been badly impacted because of the corona-impacted lockdowns and then subsequent crackdowns on imports and, micro investigation or micro assessment of all Chinese imports. So that will certainly impact the spurious or the unregulated market. So that should favorably impact the organized sector and the branded companies.
Okay. Is the impact already visible, sir? I mean, have you seen that those products are now off the shelf from the small dealers, retailers, or they are still very much there?
So what I'm trying to do is only extrapolate here, Rohan, because as I shared with you, the market accessibility has not yet opened up. There are district level lockdowns or market associations have imposed their own lockdowns where company people are not being allowed easy access into the market. So that visibility is not very loud and clear. I'm just extrapolating given the fact that my other peers have also informed a brisk movement in the quarter, and I have seen unprecedented movement in this quarter. Takes me to believe that there is a supply shortage from the unorganized sector. And this is what my channel also informs me in my telephonic and Zoom interactions, that such supplies and spurious supplies and so-called bioproduct supplies is seriously impacted.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. We take the next question from the line of S. Ramesh from Nirmal Bang. Please go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Dhanuka and Mr. Bansal. Thank you for the call. My first thought was on the balance sheet. What is the kind of capex you plan to invest this year, and what is the impact of this sharp growth in revenue on your working capital?
You see, as far as capex is concerned, not really significantly. It would be normal capex between 5 to 10 CR in this financial year.
And what about the impact on working capital, because you've seen your revenue go up so much?
Working capital has improved in a quarter one significantly by 15 days.
So you expect that to continue for the rest of the year?
It should continue, but not exactly in the same speed.
Okay, and in terms of the distribution costs, do you see any room for improvement in the distribution costs for the industry or for your own company? Or is there a potential for actually the cost to go up because everybody is sensing an opportunity and the cost of reaching to the farmer and getting that mind share is possibly increasing. So what is your thought on the trend in the distribution cost over time?
When you are saying distribution cost means what? What exactly you are looking for?
So basically in terms of your marketing and distribution costs.
Marketing and distribution costs.
Yeah.
Largely, it would remain as per the last year percentage. This year there are certain savings, certain heads, and we are spending more in advertising and publicity this year. In terms of percentage, we will largely see as per the last year.
Okay. So that means if you are able to control your raw material costs and if you are able to grow your revenue, you should be able to maintain your EBITDA margins going forward. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Fair enough. Thanks a lot and congratulations and all the best.
Thank you. We take the next question from the line of Saurabh Kapadia from Asian Market Securities. Please go ahead.
Hello. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. So first on the in-licensing of products. So all the products which we are going to in-license in FY21, are they exclusive to Dhanuka or there will be some other company as well?
So we are introducing two products, Sodium and Kirari, which are 9 introductions for the year. These are exclusive for Dhanuka.
Okay, and so the two products we already launched in this quarter, so...
Yeah, the two herbicides which we introduced, Dozomax and Dabus, these are non-exclusive. These are in-licensed non-exclusive.
Okay. And so what could be the size of the 9 products like we are launching? So maybe a peak potential sales for those products, maybe 2 or 3 years down the line. What would be the size for those products?
Right, I'm not sharing those numbers on the call. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
And sir, just one one more thing on the co-marketing in the Maharashtra. So that has begun from 2020. So how much was the revenue in this quarter? Probably, I believe last year would be a nil revenue, and this quarter it would have been some contribution from that part of the portfolio as well.
I think so. We try to put behind that memory itself, so we have not really assessed how much is the impact of that. So yes, of course, that has been favorable.
Oh, okay, so in the range of 5 to 10%, that would be a fair assessment?
Could be.
For the particular state.
Yeah, for Maharashtra alone, yes.
Oh, okay, sir. Yeah. Thank you. That's all on my side.
Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is the last question for today. I would now like to hand the conference over to Mr. Manish Mahawar for closing comments.
Yeah, thank you, Janice. On behalf of Antique Stock Broking, I would like to thank the team of Dhanuka Agritech for providing us an opportunity to host the call. Dhanuka, would you like to make any closing comments, sir?
Only thing is that as per information, the rainfall of long period average is 10% higher in comparison to last year till 15th of July. And the sowing is around 21% higher in comparison to last year. And the ground water is also higher, and reserves are all full with the water. So irrigation facilities are available, and farmers reaped a good harvest in the Rabi crop, and they could get good price also. So that way, farmers are having ample money in their pocket, and they are ready to spend more money to safeguard their crop from pests and diseases in this Kharif also. So we are hopeful that rest of the season also we will be able to grow significantly, and this will be a basically golden year for Dhanuka after a long time. It was a historical basically quarter for Dhanuka, because never in the history we have grown by 70% in earlier times. So this was the first quarter. So let us hope that this momentum continues and we are able to deliver to the expectation of the market. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of Antique Stock Broking, that concludes this conference. Thank you all for joining. You may now disconnect your lines.